Good morning, and welcome to my hobby table again. You know, a funny thing happened at a modeler's house yesterday. And the funny thing is, I ended up coming home with an engine. But there is a story to this engine and how I got it, and I'm going to share it with you really quickly as I kind of rotate this thing around. So, the president of the Winnebago RC Flyers Club contacted me the other day because he had seen my video on the old school video number 3 with the SIG Cadet, and I was looking for a red monocoat. So he suggested that I can contact this club member. His name's Bruce, who just happens to live about 3 miles away from me. So I called him yesterday and went over to his house. Bruce is a fantastic gentleman. Very wonderful. He's been in the hobby since he was 12 years old. He's 82 now, so he knows it all, basically. So he took me on a tour of his basement, which has all kinds of airplanes, all kinds of engines. And the bottom line is he was telling me stories about every plane, every engine, and it was just fantastic. And we get to one other section of his basement. He starts pulling out engines. And he hands this one to me and says, "Here, take this engine." And I was like, "Why? I don't need the engine. I'm looking for monocoat." He says, "I don't want this engine anymore. Just take it." So this happens to be an OS FS61 ringed engine. This is an engine that dates back to the early 80s. And he gave me this engine, and you may notice that the rocker cover is not stock. Something happened to the original one. It was broken, and Bruce's son has some machining experience, or is a machinist, and made a new one for this. But this engine actually belonged to someone who's in the Wisconsin Aviation Hall of Fame, and his name is Gene R. Chase. And Bruce knew Gene very well, and they worked at EAA together, and Gene and Bruce all knew Paul Poberenzi of EAA fame also, and he was telling me some really interesting stories about that. So basically, this is a historical engine in my opinion because it belonged to someone who's in the Hall of Fame. I can't tell you exactly if it's the Wisconsin Aviation Hall of Fame or not, but I'll put a link to his page where they've got his information, Gene's information. But this engine is in fantastic shape. I was looking at the prop drive, and obviously these older OS engines had a Woodruff key. And boy, I wish every engine manufacturer would have stuck with that, because it's such a tried and true means of retaining these things. And then you don't have to have bearing pullers and all that kind of stuff, and take the risk of damaging these things. So I don't understand why they went to Sato and others went to these mechanical fit tapered sleeve collars, because that's just a pain in the butt. But anyway, this engine's clearly got some runtime on it, but I mean, it's got wow, okay, it's got really good compression. And I want to do just a quick look inside here. The last thing I need at this point is another engine that's disassembled, because I've already got several customer engines that are disassembled, and I've disassembled about 4 of mine. And then, like I said, the last thing I really need is another engine that's disassembled, but I'm not going to keep this one disassembled. I just want to check it out because I was excited. Look how clean this is. I mean, it's funny because this looks really clean up here, but that exhaust, and I was seeing, before I turned the camera on, I was looking in here, and I was seeing quite a bit of carbon carbon residue built up on the valve, the exhaust valve stem. So I'm just gonna pop this carb off and then take the rear cover off. I want to check and see. It feels like the bearings feel fine to me. I mean, it's a very smooth turning over. It turns over freely without any kind of sounds or anything like that. Oh, a little bit of carbon there. I mean, it's just kind of an interesting one because the way it feels. See, hear that sound? Listen. Oh, hang on. Damn it. That one didn't make that cracking sound. That's the sound you want to hear. That's the sound of a torquing engines coming untorqued that have never been. This engine's never been opened before. But this is just an interesting one because it does show some runtime, and I really kind of wanted to take the head off. But I don't know that I'm going to here. I might take the head off and check the top of the piston. So the bottom line is I've got yet another engine in the inventory, which is kind of cool. Okay, here we go. Huh, look at that. So maybe it was just run really rich for 3 or 4 times. I don't know. It's got indications on the lugs here like it was mounted on a plane. So one thing I didn't ask Gene is I didn't really ask him if this head engine had been in an airplane and flown, or not Gene, Bruce. I didn't ask him that. But I mean this, yeah, it's got a little oil residue in there, but for the most part,
counterweight and everything looks
really nice. Looks really nice in there. In fact, I think I'm just going to throw some oil in here. What I'll do is I'll throw a bunch of this oil in here and let it kind of sit nose down like this for a while. And then I'm going to pop this glow plug out. And then once and rotate it through a bunch. And then I'll set it up on its end on top of a paper towel. And this 3-in-1 oil will start to clean, loosen any gunky residue in there. Just set it upside down, or set it on its end and let that oil just drain out, and then I can do a little bit better cleaning job, because it'll clean and get all that gunk out. And it'll be a lot easier since I don't really plan on disassembling this engine completely. It doesn't look like it needs it. I do want to pull this thing off real quick and put some oil in here. Then I'll just put this thing back together and put it in a bag until such time as I can run it.
wow, that looks.
Get the flashlight on here. That bearing looks really sweet. Look at this. It's really nice looking in there. Look at this bearing. So, I just want to say thank you very much, Bruce. I don't know if you watch my channel. I think Dave, president of RC Club, I think he watches my channel. Obviously he watches some of them anyway. So if you see this, Dave and Gene or Bruce doesn't watch my channel, and you can tell him thank you. I thanked him profusely when I was there. But I mean, you can never thank somebody enough for generosity and kindness when there's so little of that going around in the world now. See, it's already starting to, I tipped it, and it's starting to pee out some dirty oil. Oh, you know what, before I do this, I should load this area up here with oil too. Did I do that? I think I did do that. This will get here in the front bearing if I drizzle some more oil in there. Just kind of keep it tipped up like this. So anyway, this was just a quickie video on a nice story from a nice gentleman who found it in his heart to donate another engine to me and to this channel so that all of you could watch it, and then also the history of who owned this engine, and read about Gene R. Chase, because his bio is quite impressive. That man could probably walk into just about any airport and fly any airplane there was. I think the article, his bio speaks of him being able to have flown over 340 different types of aircraft. He was in World War II. He was a carrier pilot for TB something Avengers. He's flown it all. He did fly it all. So he was just a really wonderful aviation and war hero. And now I have a piece of his history, which is incredible. I'm going to leave the video like this and put all this stuff back together off camera. But just know that, you know, there's another engine here. This carb looks perfect too. I mean, this thing just looks brand new. It's a quandary here is how this exhaust looks like it does and how the exhaust stem looks like it does, but everything else looks perfectly clean, so it's really interesting. But anyway, that's the story of how I got another FS61 engine.